Okay, we're recording. Hey everyone. So today I have the pleasure to speak with Lucy, also known as that carnivore nurse. And Lucy, carnivore and being a nurse.
Yeah,
That's quite the combo. You're
it
definitely
is.
a lot cooler than most people already. And I bet a lot of your coworkers probably think you're insane.
Yeah, I
Uh,
am nuts to a lot of people.
Yeah, why don't we just start with going into a little bit of your background? How did you come to carnivore and all that?
So, yes, I'm a nurse. I kind of had two parts of my life that brought me to carnivore, my personal life and my professional life. So a bit about me. I I kind of had like a 3-4 year journey to finding carnivore. It started with like it started when I was younger, maybe like late teenager, 17. I'd just gone to uni and I was a very insecure teenage girl, classic, wanting to lose weight all the time, thinking I didn't look good, all this or that. Kind of shame, like a lot. And it's actually insane how many young people, teenagers go through that. Um, but it happened to me. So due to that, I went through a very intense period of restrictive eating and I lost a lot of weight, but quite quickly. It was like a 5-month period. I lost a lot of muscle during that time too. And, I found myself in this situation where I was physically, mentally not well. And which was strange because in my head, I'm like, oh, but I've met my goal, I got what I thought I wanted. But no, that was not really what I wanted. I was just confused, really. So that kind of put me in this position, like, right, what should I eat to be healthy? What's the best foods to heal myself? Because during that restricted period, like I was vegetarian and I had been vegetarian for like 2 years, my teenage years as well. I've always been kind of interested in diet, I suppose. I've always been quite experimental. And I thought being vegetarian was a healthy thing. So when I had that question, what should I eat now? I started with the lots of vegetables. The classic idea is eat the rainbow. Like I was having these salads and they were just full of so many different plants, so many colors, and I thought that was like health. And I was having lots of grains and lentils, pulses, and porridge. My breakfast every day was porridge with an entire apple and then almonds, chia seeds, flax seeds, semi-skim milk. It was like, I thought I was doing it so well. I was so proud. But I would notice when I would eat these sort of foods is my energy levels, especially the breakfast. I'd have this porridge and felt like I could fall asleep an hour later. I'd be at my desk trying to revise and I would just feel like my eyes would be heavy and I would just be like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And it confused me because I thought my porridge was the best meal out there. So whilst this was all going in my personal life, I was obviously training to be a nurse. So I was going around to lots of different health departments during my placements and just seeing a wide range of disciplines and a lot of ill health. And I was noticing that there was a lot of chronic disease. There was lots of type 2 diabetes, heart conditions, strokes, dementia, and no one was getting better at all. Everyone was either getting managed at that level of illness that they were in or deteriorating and getting worse and requiring more input, more healthcare, more medication. And it made me confused because I wanted to know why people were getting these illnesses in the first place and then how they could actually recover and whether that was even possible. Because from a point of view as well, it was like, I don't want to get type 2 diabetes. And because I was seeing so much ill health and the way we kind of have the conversation around disease, it's kind of inevitable, I thought. I thought it was going to come for me one day. So when I get type 2 diabetes, I need to know how to not have type 2 diabetes. That's kind of how my mindset was too. So I just became so fascinated in understanding disease. So that led me down to ketogenic diets, really. I was realizing that it was the ultra processed foods predominantly. That's the biggest issue in our food system. We're eating a huge amount of foods that are completely foreign to what the human body is used to consuming. And they're very destructive. They're addictive. They're full of refined sugars. They're full of seed oils, which are industrially produced, very foreign to the body. And they're just hyper palatable, and they're everywhere. And these things they do not belong in the body. But that a lot of people would agree with that too. But what I was coming to realize is, okay, it's also what you don't eat, but what you do eat. And that pairs with my porridge, even because my porridge wasn't technically really ultra processed. So I thought it's healthy, but it's not ideal because of the energy issues. So that both of these things led me to ketogenic diets. I first discovered Dr. Berg on YouTube. Do you know him?
Yeah.
He's very into keto. He's been around for yonkies now. But he is very he loves plants. So that's kind of where I started. I was having loads of vegetables still. But I was feeling better because I took a huge amount of carbohydrate out of my diet. Having huge salads still, but more beef, more bacon, more eggs, lots of extra virgin olive oil, stuff like that. And then slowly over time, as I was learning more and just experimenting more with myself, I kind of had this natural progression. Like my plate would start changing. I get more eggs, less avocado, all that sort of stuff. And then in my last year of uni, I was writing my dissertation on what are the barriers and facilitators for implementing low carbohydrate diets for patients with type 2 diabetes, because I understood, wow, you can put these diseases into remission. They're caused by our environment, so our environment can also heal them. Why have I never seen that in practice? I had a placement in diabetes with a diabetes nurse specialist, and what I took away from that was they were telling the patients, eat whatever you want, eat the carbohydrates, eat the cake, eat the potato, eat the pasta, doesn't matter, just cover it with insulin. Count up your carbohydrates, decide how much insulin you need to inject yourself with to account for that carbohydrate number, and that's you done. And then do that every single time you eat. In my head, that's a lot of maths. I don't want to do that every time I eat. And these sort of patients, they didn't really know what a carbohydrate even was. They didn't know what foods were low carb, high carb, where the protein was. They didn't know. So that's actually quite a dangerous thing to expect people to do. If you give yourself too much insulin, especially too much, you can risk having hypoglycemia, so too low blood sugars, and that can potentially be fatal. So to then expect someone to do that every single day, 3 times a day, it's a lot to ask from someone. It's very hard and potentially dangerous. Well, it is dangerous. So I understood that there was another option, which is more simple to me than that, which is to just go low carb. But I wasn't seeing that in practice. So I wanted to research why for my dissertation and send that to the uni. So during that research, I stumbled upon Dr. Paul Mason's video about fiber, because I was still there was one thing holding me back, was my belief that I had to eat fiber. I thought it was essential. I would eat broccoli most days. I would eat it at the start of my meal, like chug it down like it never even happened, and then eat the eggs and
fill
stuff.
You up.
Yeah, or just because I need to eat this, I'll just get it out of the way and then I'll enjoy my eggs and stuff. Like I thought I just should because it's good for you. But I never really wanted it. I wasn't that bothered. And then I watched this video and it blew my mind. It made so much sense. Just the logic and reason was just resonating so much. Like, wow, maybe we're wrong. Maybe we don't need fiber. So then I just went down the rabbit hole, and he introduced me to the whole carnivore space, no plants, only animal products. I was like, oh, I'm going to try this. That seems good to me. So I tried it for a month, and I'm still doing it nearly a year later. And now I'm talking about it on Instagram. So that's a brief explanation how I got to carnivore.
Yeah, that's great. And I definitely resonate, or your story definitely resonates a lot with me, like the restriction stuff and like becoming frail and like muscle loss, all that stuff. I was in the same situation myself and felt horrible, or I was at the point of like severe depression and all that, and pretty bad gut issues. And it's so sad because we see so many young people nowadays suffering from these issues, right? And
Yeah.
one of the worst parts about it for me is, like, lately, the last couple of years, we've seen a lot of young people who are even trying their best, thinking they're doing the right things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you were, and they're like doing the hard training, pre-workouts, not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that, but eating a lot of plants, fiber, and all that, and they don't understand, why am I still feeling like trash and not really getting any better? I'm actually just feeling worse and worse. And yeah, that's why we got to keep spreading this message, right?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's really, when we're talking about eating disorders and stuff, because I get a lot, not a lot, but you get the odd comment saying, oh, this is just another eating disorder. You're promoting an eating disorder. And I just have to disagree with that, because one, we need to eat something. So what's that going to be? Like, you could say anything, I don't know, anything is an eating disorder if you disagree with it. But from someone that's experienced disordered eating, like I've gone through the trenches with eating disorders, really, finding carnivore has given me the most relief than anything else. And for the main reason, there's multiple reasons, but the main benefit I've had from it is overcoming ultra processed food addiction and cravings. Like, that was consuming at times for me, for multiple reasons. One, I think because I was just so hungry. I was so depleted. If you go through a period of food restriction, if you have, like, from disordered eating, and like I did when I was younger, like, you're going to deplete your body. I was malnourished for sure. I was protein deficient. My nails were extremely frail. They would break, very brittle. Now I can grow my nails long. Like, I could never have done that before. I would have periods in my life where my hair would be falling out in, like, chunks, not chunks, but you'd brush your hair and be like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe I have any hair left. And that would come and go for like a few months at a time. That hasn't happened since being carnivore. And that's because you're eating so many nutrient-dense foods. And to be able to recover from like eating ultra-processed food compulsion and sugar cravings, you need to replace them with the most powerful foods for satiation, which is high-fat animal foods. So without carnivore, I don't think I would have been able to do that, because even when I was more like keto and with lots of vegetables, I always had cravings for sugar. I always had cravings for ultra-processed food, and I kind of just thought, it's normal now. Like, this is just my life. Everyone craves these foods. It's normal to want to eat these foods, but it's actually not. I was just slightly addicted still, and hungry, and just not deeply satiated. But carnivore has done that for me. So I really feel for people that have had issues of food restriction and they're going through the recovery process, and there's that message that you need to be able to eat everything in moderation to be able to recover from an eating disorder. So you have a normal eating now. But I think we're just missing the mark there, because it's not normal eating to have, 200, 300 plus grams of carbohydrates a day. That's actually not normal at all for a human body. And then on top of that, including ultra processed foods. And, for some people, maybe that works. Some people can do that and feel great, and that's fine. But for me, and I know for a lot of other people too, it doesn't work. I cannot moderate these foods. I've had issues with, binging these foods, overeating these foods, not being able to control them, and feeling awful for that. It's a horrible situation to find yourself in. And the biggest relief from that whole cycle has been eating carnivore. So
Yeah, absolutely. That's been the same for me. And for me, even when I wasn't eating, because in like the period before carnivore, I wasn't even eating the ultra processed stuff. I was practically eating just a balanced diet, right? Mostly plant based and all that stuff, because I was into the whole calorie counting shit stuff. And yeah,
was this with intentions to kind of lose weight? Were you trying to like heal your IBS at that point too, or was it?
No, yeah, that was with the intention of losing weight. And yeah, my eating habits and patterns and all that stuff, my food noise, I guess, it hasn't been more disordered than it was at that point,
Hmm.
actually. And now it's just there's no food noise. I don't think about it really. I just eat and then go
You
on
just
with
go
my day.
outside.
Yeah, right.
Like
I just
really.
go do something. And
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to ask you actually about the thing you asked me about there. What were you actually, while you were doing the whole restriction thing, what was it
Mm.
in your mind that you were actually chasing? Was it that sort of, I want to look better, and that was the whole
Yeah, like I was
idea?
very, very insecure. Like I thought that, and these thoughts still come to me now. It's not like, I feel like sometimes you're going to have, everyone deals with these sort of thoughts. We're all insecure to a degree. And I think for me, because it was so intense, it got quite deep rooted in my head, and it's taken a lot to work myself out of that. Um, and it's still something I deal with to this day, and hopefully one day it will go. But I think it's just what changes is the way you react to these thoughts when they come as you grow up and mature and realize, maybe they're not true. Um, but during that time, I thought that, the skinnier I was, changing this, changing that, I put a lot of my worth and my self-worth on my appearance. It was kind of like a ruling factor for me, and it ruled my mood, it ruled my outlook of myself, which now I can see from another angle and realize that's just that's just not correct. Like, your worth isn't about your body at all. Obviously, it's important to look after yourself, and wanting to feel good is okay, and look good is absolutely fine. But it just can't rule you, and it was ruling me. I was very out of balance. So yeah, that was really the driving factor. But it's hard because sometimes, like, at times there's a blurred line between, like, over restriction and then actually you felt good, because and it's hard to
I know what
explain. I
you're
don't know how
talking
I can
about.
put it
I know
into
what you're talking
words,
about. Yeah.
because during this kind of period, like, I I would have had I was eating better, I suppose. I guess it wasn't really. It's because eating is so confusing, because it's something you have to do, and to some degree it's healthy, and then at some point it tips into, like, disordered and overwhelming, and you're putting it above other important things in your life. But I think I've read recently that there's potentially some people that deal with restrictive eating and, like, anorexic conditions. They also just naturally prefer the feeling of being in ketosis. I don't. I mean, there's nothing to. I don't know if there's a science behind it or, like, a study behind this, but I feel like this kind of resonated with me, because I do prefer being in a low insulin state. I do prefer running on fat. And I don't know if that was something that kind of made it worse for me, because it was like, obviously I was totally under energized. I didn't feel good, but there was aspects of it sometimes when I'd get these, like, mental clarity moments where you just feel kind of light and fresh, because you're also in a lower insulin, like, more ketogenic state. And that's kind of carried on in carnivore. And I still feel like I have that aspect of, like, freshness in the head, but obviously with energy and nutrition and way, way better. But it's quite an interesting thought.
Yeah, and absolutely. As I mentioned in there, for me as well, during that whole restriction thing, there were moments where I actually felt way better than I ever had in my life.
Hmm.
But
And then it
eventually,
tips
because I think
over.
I remember when you spoke to Joff, I think you talked about like this whole period was kind of like 5, 6 months, something like that.
Hmm.
Because that's what it was for me too.
Because it's unsustainable. Like, you can't starve yourself forever, obviously.
Yeah, right.
But in my head, I'm like, no, I can keep this up. I'm an extremely determined person, and it's like my biggest strength and my absolute biggest fault too. Because if I send that in the wrong way, I'm
Yeah, you're
I'm a
just gonna
lost
keep
cause.
going. That's
Yeah,
how I
I'm
am
totally
too.
lost cause.
Yeah.
I
But
think a
yeah,
lot
right.
of people that find
And then you
carnivore are quite like that,
yeah,
all
I
or
think
nothing.
so. Yeah. And then at the end of that period, right, you also started just feeling kind of worse than you did before you started the whole thing, didn't you? Is that
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Or
I was just depleted.
yeah.
Because then you're in this horrible mental situation where, you've kind of reached what you thought you wanted. Like I lost weight, and a twisted part of you likes that too.
Definitely.
But then you're also realizing, but this is awful. I'm hungry all the time. I feel awful. Like, you know, deep down it's wrong. You know, you can't keep it up. You know, it's not sustainable. Your body is telling you that. And you know you have to change. So you're kind of forced to face the reality of the situation. And that's hard. That's a hard truth to realize when you know that you've been going down the wrong path.
Yeah, it's definitely an unfortunate thing too, right? Because we see a lot of, or most people that end up in this carnivore space are people that hit that like rock bottom, like the worst moment of their life, and were like forced into making that change.
Yeah,
And
changes.
I actually just remembered something, or I thought of something when you said that whole anorexic thing, or eating disorders, and being in ketosis and all that. Because my sister, she's 19 and vegetarian, yeah, and she suffers a lot from that sort of stuff, like binging and purging cycles, I guess, but mostly just, yeah, starving herself, I guess. And she actually told me maybe a month or two ago, she came up to me and said, you know what, actually, in the times where I go 3, 4, 5 days maybe without eating, for some reason
Wow.
I feel so much better.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself in that moment, and I told her straight up, you know what, I started like telling her, you know, that means you've probably ended up in the same sort of metabolism that I'm
Yeah.
in, with the sort of way I'm eating, but you know, it just goes straight in
But
and
you
out.
can do it and be nourished. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm still working on getting her to understand all of it. You know, you can't just shove it down someone's throat either. It won't
No,
work. They have
exactly.
to,
And
yeah,
from experiencing the mindset of very disordered eating, like I knew deep down what I was doing was wrong, but I wasn't ready to accept the truth, basically.
yeah,
And for some people, like, need to go all the way down the rabbit hole to realize, like, whoa. And some people can, turn around quite quickly. But for me, I seem to have to go all the way down, unfortunately. But it's
yeah,
hard. Like, you can't really change someone's mind. They have to realize it for themselves, especially in a situation like that.
yeah. And also on what, like adding to what you said, do you know if there's like a moment where everything clicked for you, something you heard, like a specific moment, or when you experienced it for yourself, like the moment you actually believed that, oh, this is the thing I'm going to keep doing, and this
With
works.
carnivore,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could think of one moment in particular.
Like, is there someone you listened to, or was it
I mean,
you
Paul Mason,
experienced? Yeah.
but when he just broke down the logic of fiber, it just made me realize, like,
Is it
whoa.
that video with that study with like
The
idiopathic
study, yeah,
inflammation? Yeah,
plastic
yeah,
and
that's
just
a good
going
one.
through, yeah. I can't think of a specific moment, because it all kind of, like, when you try carnivore, things slowly change over time. You don't just, for me anyway, it wasn't just like a bang moment,
Yeah,
but
yeah. It was
yeah.
more learning over time, and
Yeah,
like,
and then I've Dr. Chafee's podcast, Plant Free MD. I've listened to every single episode of that like 3 times. It's just like mind blowing to me. It
yeah,
all just made sense. The logic and reasoning behind it all just made sense. Of course, there's an optimal diet for humans. We've made it this far. We are the apex predator. I do genuinely believe there is an optimal diet for every species. So there is a truth out there. And from my understanding of it, and like, you just bring in your own experience and your own logic, you can determine for yourself what you think that is. And to me, it seems that meat is the most plausible one. It just makes sense.
yeah, on like every single aspect. And I feel like the more I learn, actually, the more convinced I am.
I know. It just
Even
seems
if
to make sense.
yeah, and even if I try to go out finding something that proves me wrong, I just it just doesn't seem to really
Yeah, it just,
Be
yeah,
anything.
it's so logical. And especially
Yeah.
when I then go to work and I see the implications
Mm.
the wrong, the inappropriate species appropriate diet, I can't get it out of my head. It's like, no, like because I do wonder, like, what if I'm wrong? Am I wrong? Like, I'm promoting something and I could be wrong. I still could be wrong, because we'll never know 100% what we ate is throughout human time, but we can make educated guesses. And so we have to be critical all the time. But yeah, from what I'm seeing, experiencing and feeling myself, it seems that to be the most plausible food
Yeah.
choice at the moment. Don't know what else there would be. It could never be a modern food. It couldn't be. It would be
No.
impossible. So
No, but speaking about your work and stuff, being a nurse, when you go into the hospital, I would guess it isn't the prettiest look, everything you see around you. So could you actually take us through that a little bit? Your
like my job,
working
just what I
days?
do.
Yeah, what you see around you in the hospital and stuff.
Yeah. So I work in orthopedic trauma. I like orthopedics because it's what we do, like modern medicine, well for. If someone's got a broken hip, if they've got a broken leg, they need to come to hospital. They need a doctor, they need a surgeon, they need a nurse, because their leg is broken. It makes sense, So they come in, they have their surgery, they have their post-operative care, and then they go home. And I like that. I can put my energy into that. But of course, you get medical patients everywhere you go. So what does that look like? It looks like a lot of ill people, a lot of medications, if you've got diabetes, there's constant blood sugar checking and chasing. I recently posted a video explaining a day in the life of a type 2 diabetic patient on my Instagram. And the responses to that have been so interesting. The biggest thing to me, because I've been in healthcare for about 5 years now, so many things are just it's very normalized to me. And the shock of people's reactions to this specific story, and the blood sugars and the insulins and the food that this person ate, they were shocked and blown away that this was, like, a lot of the comments like, I can't believe this is still happening. I'm like, wow, this happens all day, every day, probably in every hospital in the UK. I can only speak for the UK, but for all my experiences of managing type 2 diabetes within hospitals, that's what they eat. That's a very generic day of eating, and very plausible blood sugar insulin situation for many, many patients. They're fed extremely high carbohydrate diets. It was interesting. Yesterday, I was working, and my patient had type 2 diabetes, and they had a blood sugar of 21 millimoles per liter, which is that the scale you use?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. In the American, I thought milladecibel. I can't remember the unit, but
Whatever. They
that's
can
like
look at them.
300
They
and
can look it up
it's around
themselves.
360. I can't know what units you guys use. It's really, really high. Ketones were 0.0. They were 0. And that was before lunch. They'd already had their breakfast, which in the place I work at the moment, the only breakfast options are toast, roll, cereal with jam. There's no protein, there's no zero carb option, there's no, like, that's it. I've worked in one place where they had scrambled eggs as an option. But apart from that, that's a very, very generic breakfast menu. So extremely high blood sugar. And she was diet controlled. So I was like, challenge accepted then. Let's try get these blood sugars down, because they weren't going to give her, I spoke to the medical team, they didn't want to give any medication to lower it. So diet controlled it is. So lunch was coming up, and I asked the person that coordinates meals and does the meal delegation and everything, do you have a low carbohydrate menu? Because my patient has very high blood sugar levels, and it would be inappropriate to feed them any sugar or carbohydrate at the moment. And he looked at me like, what? He was very, he's like, he was like, no, I don't think so. The closest thing we'd have would be finger food, which is, it's the same thing, just smaller portions, basically. I'm like, well, yeah, that wouldn't really work. Has anyone ever, and then I was like intrigued. I was like, has anyone ever asked for a low carbohydrate menu before? And he said, no one's ever asked. So he'll go speak to the kitchen. So lunch came around, and her order that she did have was a sandwich and a soup. So it would have been carbohydrate. And I think she had a pudding too. And they didn't have anything else for them. So I ended up just selecting like a beef. It was a beef pie, but we took the beef out and just gave the beef, and then broccoli. So I don't know what was in the beef sauce. It probably wasn't, it wouldn't have been zero carb, but it would have been the best that we had. So by the time, her table was also full of grapes. If you have diabetes, do not eat grapes. They rise your sugar so quickly. They're just sugar bombs. They really are. And then biscuits, sugary drinks, yogurts, these supplement drinks that the hospital dietitians prescribe for patients 3 times a day if you have a broken hip, and they're just full of sugar. I think they're quite inappropriate for patients with diabetes. That, and then that was probably it. Just some chocolate. There's like just full. So I took everything off the table, and then by dinner, her blood sugar had come down to 16, so it was coming down. And she actually had ordered an omelette that yesterday, so that was quite good. And then I just didn't give her the ice cream that she also ordered with that. And then for tomorrow, I put on there, I didn't know if this is going to work or not. And I almost really wanted to take a shift today to find out if this worked. On her menu, I wrote, this patient has very high blood sugar levels. Can you please just make them scrambled egg? Nothing else for her lunch. And then for dinner, I think I just selected the meat and the broccoli again, which was in a tomato sauce. So they're probably still very sugary, these things. But I don't know what happened about those scrambled eggs. I really hope they got them. They might be eating it right now, actually, if they got it. But yeah, it's quite hard to manage. It's impossible, really, to manage a patient with diet-controlled type 2 diabetes in hospital, because there's no low carbohydrate menu. There's other menus. If you're vegan, there's a vegan menu, there's a halal menu, there's a gluten-free menu. They cater for lots of diet options. There's a vegetarian menu, but there's no low carbohydrate menu, which I've really, really, really started to realize, like, wow, this needs to change. And now I'm wondering, how do you change that? I don't know who I need to talk to, but it's very hard.
Well, it definitely seems like you're already trying to do something to make a change from the inside yourself.
But I don't know. I mean, I don't know who coordinates the NHS menus, whose decisions that, I don't know. But
I mean,
I think you'd get a lot of pushback too, because a lot of doctors will think it's unsafe to restrict carbohydrate. A lot of people are still in that camp. So I don't know.
Yeah, talking about pushback, do your co-workers know about your whole carnivore thing and your page and stuff?
They do. Yeah, I think I don't really know how they found out. I don't know if they just found my Instagram. I kind of thought, I mean, eventually they would. But they're all just mostly interested. They definitely aren't in the way that, like, oh, I want to try that, sort of interested, but just like, how is that possible? What do you mean you haven't eaten a vegetable? A lot of them are blown away that I don't just eat ultra processed foods, really. Like, and they're like, do you not want to eat like a cake? And do you not want to eat ice cream? I'm like, no, I really don't. That's the biggest thing that people are blown away about, is I don't want these foods, because they can't imagine a life without it. And for a while, I couldn't imagine a life without wanting to eat these foods, without having these cravings. So I totally understand it. And I'm glad I found a way to not want these foods. some people ask, oh, do you supplement anything? I'm like, do you supplement anything? I'm eating the most nutrient dense foods here. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's quite interesting. I've had some intense conversations.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think it's very hard for just, I think it's part of human nature, right? That we don't understand something until we've really experienced it for ourselves.
Yeah, it's really hard. Like, I wouldn't know what it felt like to not crave these things until I was experiencing it. I didn't know if it was possible, but now I strongly think it is for everyone.
Yeah, is it for you? Is it like if you go through a store or something or see people eating that stuff, or you get the smell, it's just like either it's just repulsive, the smell of it alone, or it just doesn't even register in your mind when you
Yeah,
walk past
most
it,
of the
right?
time, especially if there's no smell and you're just looking at a packet on the shelf, I'm like, oh, look at that. That's gross. And then that's kind of it. And then I can't, and you know, like look at that, there it is. I'm like very indifferent to it. In the past, it would have been like, oh, I wish I could eat that, or that'd be like so good right now. And you're kind of like planning, oh, maybe I'll just eat it. And you're like playing these games in your head,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, no, I'll just move on, thanks. And sometimes, you know, you smell like something and you're like, oh, that smells kind of good, and then you're like, yeah, but whatever. You can just say no. It's like not a problem. There's not this like torment or back and forth in your head trying to be like, oh, I could just eat it, because, you know, you're not playing games with yourself anymore. It's just so straightforward, which is so nice.
Yeah, and I mean, for most of us, we just end up feeling so good, right? That's the biggest part. We feel so good doing this that why would I ever want to
Yeah,
eat any of that stuff?
I don't want to eat anything else. It's so easy. Yeah. So
Uh,
what changes have you experienced going carnivore?
oh, for me, it's been life changing. At, like at my worst point, it was in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I ended up in this whole calorie counting thing, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
was convinced that, oh, if I get my six pack and liked better what I saw in the in the not camera or camera too, but the mirror, uh, you know, that would fix all my issues because I was depressed and suffered from anxiety and IBS and like a sea of other stuff. But that's like the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I started kind of like you. I started feeling a little better when I started like restricting my food and all that stuff, and actually ended up being very happy with or more happy with, not very happy, but more happy with how I looked. But it was always that whole thing of, oh, but it can be even better.
It could be
And
more. It
also,
could be
it
more.
ends up being like an addiction in itself, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. There's a lot of
yeah,
dopamine involved in that sort of situation.
yeah. And at my worst, yeah, I was actually at such a low point that I didn't want to live anymore, really. Um, I was like going to sleep every day, just hoping to myself that I wouldn't wake up. Uh,
Wow.
and I was making up plans for how I would just end everything.
Wow.
Uh,
And how old were you at this point in 20s
uh,
sort of thing?
what was that? 22, 21, 22,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Now I'm 23. And yeah, when I went carnivore, for me, it was actually, I didn't actually know about the whole carnivore thing. I just had like a really, really severe IBS attack. Uh, so bloated, like inflamed. I couldn't handle it. It hurt so bad and I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't sleep and just thought to myself, you know what? I can't keep living with this stuff and I have to make some
Something's
drastic
going to
changes.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just made sense, like logically, that if it's my gut, of course it has to be something I'm putting in there.
Mm-hmm.
But I hadn't really been thinking about it. And even though I felt so horrible throughout the whole restriction, calorie counting stuff, I knew every time I put in the fiber and the like vegetables and stuff, I knew it made me feel terrible, but I just had to fill up my stomach, right? Because I
Mm-hmm.
had to, that was my idea of satiety, like
Mm-hmm.
being bloated and feeling awful, and like the pain in my stomach. but yeah, so I just started on my own. I started cutting out foods, just experimenting with my diet.
So you
Like,
never spoke to any like professional or anything like that? You didn't get
no,
any
no,
advice from anyone else?
no, I stayed away from that stuff because I kind of, I don't know, I think I've always been the kind of person where just leave me alone. I want to figure it
Mhm.
out myself. And also, I was at such a low point that I like hated myself so much that I wanted to keep myself down, kind of, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so I never spoke to anyone. I'm kind of happy with that at this point now that I know everything.
Because they would have told you to keep eating the fiber.
Yeah,
I
right.
find
And
it
put me
really,
on.
really interesting with IBS and Crohn's, all these
Yeah,
very severe gut problems and how much fiber is promoted. And it's so interesting because so many times I'm like, could this be the problem for you? The very thing you think is exactly what you need could be your main problem.
yeah, and then you're being told to add more of it and more of
Mm-hmm.
it and more of it. I
Mm-hmm.
definitely heard that advice though and did it and got worse and worse and worse. So that one, but it wasn't through doctors or anything. It was just like on YouTube or something like that. Uh, but yeah, uh, going on to like further into my story. So yeah, I started like experimenting with my diet. Right, I thought to myself first, is there something I had that day of that big flare up? That I hadn't had in a while. It's just like logically, like that will make sense. Maybe I'm allergic to something,
Mm-hmm.
I thought. And I traced it back to an apple in my
Oh,
mind. And I tried a piece of apple a few days later to test it, and everything came back.
wow.
Yeah. So I started like from there on, I just started connecting the dots myself
Uh-huh.
and seeing, oh, actually, wow, it does affect me a lot, like the stuff I put into my body, and
But it's
started
just a
really,
plant. How could it be so bad for you?
yeah. I mean, the
It's
most
mind
healthy
blowing
thing,
when you
right?
realize, yeah,
Yeah.
it really
You're,
like, you're like, what?
yeah. I mean, we still haven't grown up, still not eating our veggies, and
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a
uh,
reason why babies notoriously don't like broccoli and stuff. It's so funny to look back on
yeah,
all these things and like
exactly.
it just makes sense. The baby knows.
Yeah, and I remember like so many times because my mom, she was convinced that like celery was so good for you and stuff, and she tried to hide it inside of our stews and all our food and stuff. And every single time I could both smell it and taste it so bad, I couldn't even make myself eat the food. And
Oh
I
my
kept
god.
begging my mom, just please stop using it. It's ruining the taste of the food. But I only equated it to like me not liking the taste. I didn't think of it further than that. But I mean, of course, it tastes like pure poison, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's strange how we don't.
Our taste buds are so sensitive, and we have them for a reason. It's so we can taste things that don't belong in the body, and I think we should trust them more. Obviously, when it comes to ultra processed food, this is when we have a big problem because they're designed to trick the mind and trick the taste buds, and we can't trust them when it comes to those sort of foods. But it's interesting with plant foods like that. Like your body can tell you tastes really bitter because it doesn't like it because it doesn't want it. And why does meat
Yeah.
taste so good? Why does eggs taste so good? Why does saturated animal fat taste so good? We recognize the food. Our mouths want it. We know it. Our bodies want it.
Yeah, and it's a completely different feeling to like all the
Mm-hmm.
sugar and processed stuff too. And I think with my whole like self experimentation with cutting out stuff and reintroducing it and stuff, I think that's kind of the switch that suddenly just turned on me. It was this like survival instinct, right? That like I hit my moment of desperation where I just had to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And during those like months where I experimented with it, it was just like I started really connecting with the signals my body was giving me, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I just, for some reason, I just noticed that every single time I cut out plants from my diet, I started feeling better.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and towards the end of it, I only had an avocado left
Mm-hmm.
in my diet, and at this point, I have never even heard of carnivore. or anything. Because
So how did you find out when you found Carnivore? You must be like, oh wow, that makes sense.
that's actually pretty funny. I can tell that story if you want.
Yeah.
So basically, like 3 days into being fully carnivore, right? Or like after I cut out that avocado, because that day I had it, that last day, for some reason I had that feeling in my mouth, like it was just tasted awful, like when
Mhm.
it's disgusting. It tasted like poison to me, so I just threw it in the bin and decided I'm not having that because I've already made up my mind that I'm gonna listen to my body. Right? There's a reason why I'm feeling this,
Mhm.
and yeah, 3 days after that, pretty much. I mean, all of this is kind of a blur because my mental state was really, really bad. Right?
Mhm.
It was starting to get better, but so I don't really remember everything. It's kind of like a vague
Mhm.
thing in
No,
my
me
mind.
too. I mean, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
whole.
And 3 days, I would say, that's what I've come to in my mind into it. I suddenly woke up that day, like with a great night of sleep. Suddenly, all the fog, like my depression was just suddenly gone. Everything, all my bad feelings, everything, all my self hatred and
Wow.
self destruction, for some reason, it just lifted, just like a plastic wrap, just went away and like flew with the wind or something, right? It
Wow.
just completely disappeared. I had so much energy. I just got straight up from bed. I never did that before. It was just a snooze, 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 snooze.
Mhm.
And I just had to go outside. I just started walking, like I
That
without any
happened to me
goal.
as well. When I
Yeah,
first went carnivore, I was slowly waking up earlier and earlier and earlier in the morning, and I was just ready to go. Like sometimes it
yeah,
was 4 a.m. I was
yeah.
just
Same.
ready to go, but usually it was like 5, half 5, and I would go outside and I would walk for about an hour to 2 hours because it felt so good, and I was just ready to go. And I was also going to bed. I went to bed really early because I like going to bed early, but it was so strange to me.
Yeah,
I loved it.
that's pretty much the exact same experience I had too, and I feel like I actually hear that from a lot of people that
Yeah,
suddenly,
a
oh,
lot
I
of
go to
people.
sleep earlier, and then I wake up like really early and just I'm ready to go. I just
Yeah,
wanna,
and I just had to
what,
do something.
yeah,
There was a point when I was it was before my shifts. I was doing a 12-hour shift that day, and I would be waking up. The shift would start at 7 or even half 7, I think back then. I'd be waking up at like 5 o'clock without an alarm, just completely ready to go. I'd be like, wow, I've got 2 hours before I need to be in work. And I would go for a walk and I'd have a really lovely, like, slow morning, no rush, and then just, end up at work and do a whole shift. And it just felt like I had so much more time in the day. It was amazing. It didn't feel like I was like dragging myself to work. I'd already felt like I'd lived a bit of a day, done my own thing, and then gone to work. It
yeah,
was it was so strange.
yeah. Suddenly, like your life just becomes so productive. You
Mm.
you're you feel so free, and you can just you
Mhm.
have the time and energy to do everything you want to be. It's almost like finally become who you were meant to be all along, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I didn't answer your question actually. I'm
Sorry, yeah,
kind
I
of,
just I
but
keep
yeah,
adding in stories.
I mean, that's the carnivore clarity, right? You just when you start rambling, you just keep
Yeah.
going. We
So
never shut
clear.
up.
No,
But
stick
yeah,
to a topic.
no, that's I think it's good to keep it organic and real.
Yeah.
See where it goes. But yeah, the moment I found out about carnivore itself was that day, 3 days in, because I'd been so isolated for so long, and
Mhm.
suddenly that day when I woke up feeling just happy out of nowhere and everything, all my depression and anxiety was gone. I just had this feeling, you know what? I'm gonna call my parents. I hadn't really been talking to them. I lived in the UK at the time,
Oh, really?
in Surrey,
Oh, wow.
or Guildford, more
Guildford.
specifically. Yeah.
Wow, that's so random. What were you doing there? Oh, no, no, we'll get distracted. Back to
But
your
yeah,
story.
yeah, yeah. But now I'm living in Norway again.
Okay.
Anyways, yes. So when I was just out walking like for hours on end, I don't know, I just had to be outside,
Mhm.
um, and
Nothing
do
clears your
something.
mind like that, a morning
Yeah,
walk. Wow.
yeah. So
Oh, I can't hear you.
Oh,
Hello?
okay.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Okay, good. Is it still recording? I think so.
Yes.
Seems like I fell out. But yeah, so that day I called my parents, and when I got on the phone with my mum, I just started telling her, right, that so I've been experimenting with my diet and all lately, and I don't know why, but like this is what I'm eating right now. I cut out everything else, and I don't know why, but you can probably even tell from the way I'm speaking to you that I'm suddenly just feeling so good, right? Suddenly, I feel like I'm alive again. And she just told me, yeah, I can actually tell from just the way you're speaking to me, like the enthusiasm and the positivity and everything. And yeah, she told me something funny, which is she goes to Pilates and told me that a lot of people in that community actually do this sort of diet, like the keto, even carnivore, low carb stuff, uh, and also told me that she's seen people on, I think, TikTok or something, talking about the whole carnivore thing. And from there on, I started looking into it myself. I mean, I had all the questions too eventually.
Hmm.
I was really just at that point, I mean, I was mostly focused on just the relief I got, right,
Yeah.
from all my stuff. I mean, I didn't really need the justification for it
Yeah.
because I mean, I felt it on my own.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm always the kind of person I want to know why this works, right? And can I even do this long term? Because I thought I needed fiber and that you needed carbohydrates for your brain to work and all that stuff, like
That's so
everyone
cool
does.
you found it just through listening to your body though. Isn't that so amazing? No one had to tell you what to do. You just like
Yeah,
surrendered to your own body. I think that's so amazing.
yeah, it's pretty crazy, actually, that it happened.
Yeah.
And there are other stories like that. You've probably heard of Rick Rodriguez and then Maggie the rancher.
Maggie, I've heard of
Yeah,
Rick.
Rick,
What? Who's
the guy
Rick?
who hunts like lizards on his own and has ducks
Oh,
and stuff and
yes.
everything.
What
You've
is
probably
it?
seen him. Have you
Iguanas?
seen him
Is it
with
that guy? The ones that eat
iguanas? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I heard
He's
of
been
him.
on like Bart
He's
K's
bizarre.
channel and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. I think Max German interviewed him. I've listened to that
Yeah,
one.
he's great. He's funny.
Yeah, and then Maggie, of course, Maggie, she's amazing, the
Yeah,
rancher.
and
And Kelly Hogan too. She found meat-based eating before she really. I mean, from her doctor's recommendation, but she didn't really know if it was even like good for her because it was she didn't, and no one was doing it. You know, it wasn't really a thing. But that turned out to do her very well.
yeah, uh, she's
So,
definitely
are
amazing.
any of your friends carnivore? Like, because we are both young, it's a strange world being young and not eating a lot of sugar and stuff, but also not drinking alcohol. I don't know what's that like for you. Unless you drink out, do you drink alcohol?
No, I don't. I don't. Why would I want to? And
Yeah.
I used to struggle with like addiction to alcohol and that stuff too, and it completely ruined me. So for me, and I don't feel like I need it. Like, why would I?
Hmm.
I used to be dependent on it to, like,
Really?
yeah,
Would
to
you
even
say?
be able to,
Wow.
like, I would even be at like my worst point, I would like feel the need to, or even to get myself to go to school, I had to like have a drink before I went. That's how bad it was. Yeah.
To
So
school?
yeah, yeah.
Wow, I've never
And
heard that before.
uh also nicotine, I was heavily dependent on that as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, people think it's strange, of course. You probably you probably experienced that yourself.
Hmm.
uh I mean, both family and friends and all that. But I mean, I've just come to terms with it. Like, I know why I'm doing this for myself, and
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
my best. And like, I don't need that stuff to enjoy myself around people or have fun and all that. And I just want to be my best self, and I don't want to go back to how my life used to be. And that stuff. So at this point, I just don't care what they think, really.
So
And
true. It
it
doesn't
just
really feel like there's actually a loss at all. There isn't. You're
no,
just gaining. I
yeah,
think it's
exactly.
really and like the alcohol scene is and like the drug scene. I mean, going through university and just seeing that and seeing how some people behave. It is like blows my mind. It really does blow my mind. It is
Yeah, how
slightly
has it been for
concerning.
you with like younger people around you or family? How do they react?
I mean, now because I'm so busy, I kind of just naturally I'm not around it. I only work weekends in hospital, so like I don't have a Friday or Saturday night. It's not something I really have to bother about, and I'm just not really interested because I'm working, I'm doing other things. But it was interesting when I first went Carnivore, I was still a student. I was still a student nurse. So it was strange going to social events and not drinking, because I used to drink a lot. I used to love to drink. It was how you socialize as a student, for one. As a young person, like it's evolved around it, and I used to love it, and it made you feel awful for sure. Definitely contributed to some problems I had, and I would use it inappropriately at times too. Maybe not to the extent that you seem to have suffered with it, but still, it's not good for you. And it was really nice to realize that I don't need it, and I'm actually better off without it. And you can gain so much more from not drinking alcohol and still go into these social events, because you can grow your character. You can actually like stay present in the moment, realize like, oh, like, I'm finding this social situation stressful, and instead of just numbing it with alcohol, just staying there and going through it, and then realizing, oh, that actually wasn't that bad, and growing from it, and just enhancing your character. Like my character has changed quite a lot, and I think a lot of it is to do with not drinking alcohol when you feel like you want to as well. In those moments, by not doing it, you can actually grow, and that's been really nice. I have drank alcohol a couple times, and oh my gosh, the hangover, horrendous. It was like my bones were aching, and I never used to get those sort of hangovers because, one, I think because I was drinking so often, my body was like really good at processing alcohol, which is just terrible. And also just I think having carbohydrates just makes it easier. But if you're not having carbs and you don't drink often, when you do drink, it's just not worth it.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's so much growth, like what you said, that can come from just sitting in that uncomfortable situation and just accepting it, not trying to change it. I mean, that's what your brain needs to act. Yeah, your brain needs that really to actually adapt to it and realize that, oh, it's actually fine. I'm not going to die from not having alcohol in this party or this gathering.
Just deal with it. Just be social and see what happens without the alcohol.
It's actually, I would say it's actually a lot better. I actually enjoy 100%. Myself so much more.
And then you go to bed so happy that you're sober. And then you wake up so relieved that you didn't drink.
Yeah, exactly. And I actually have one experience myself pretty early in my whole like journey, where because when I was living in the UK, my dad came to visit me, and I at that point I wasn't that deep into the whole thing, so I thought, oh, I don't want to bother him and make it difficult for him with all this food stuff. Felt a little bit of the social pressure, and just went along with having the alcohol and stuff with him and all that. And yeah, you explained it pretty well.
Brutal hangover.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, my bones like ache. It's so strange. It's horrible.
So I have this weird thing in one of my or in my toes or whatever that came, like pain in my
toes hurt.
Yeah, and my lower back, I think.
Yeah, so strange. I mean, it's so toxic.
It's such a shame because young people have been like kind of indoctrinated into this way of living, where
culture,
that's the culture where that's just what you do, and that's what you have to do to be social with others, and they don't even realize, I think, because of how we've been taught.
But it's also so dangerous because it's so fun. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, wow, I can't believe you get drunk. Like, no, being drunk's really fun. It's really, and that's why it's so bad, because we're being exposed to these new substances, and it's so embedded in the culture. It's dangerous, and like you were using it to go to school. Like, we're exposing children to these crazy things, and maybe we shouldn't. But I mean, I don't know. Can't really come for alcohol. That will never change, I don't think. But
but I mean, it definitely is keeping a lot of people stuck, right? And ruining a lot of lives, making them not really progress and do what they want to achieve. Like, keeping
Oh,
them.
100%. I had a very close friend who actually died last year. He passed away,
Oh,
and he was an
I'm sorry
alcoholic.
to hear that.
No, yeah, it's awful. It really
Yeah.
is. And that was really, he struggled with alcohol for a long, long time. And it was really sad to see it because it's so socially embedded. Like if you're drinking with someone that struggles with alcohol, like it's so hard. It's a really hard thing to deal with. And it's the same with sugar too, in a way. Like if you got lots of people, I mean, so many people are addicted to sugar, are addicted to ultra processed foods, and they have chronic diseases, and maybe they're overweight, and these substances are not good for them, and it would be in their best interest to not participate. But with the way that everything's set up, with how much socializing is also revolved around food, and how much we're marketed these foods, and how normalized it is to eat these inappropriate foods, to then try and navigate yourself out of that is really, really difficult.
Yeah,
And if
definitely.
you don't know what to do, and then you're told just eat low fat and eat more vegetables, very like these foods won't satiate you. And the key to overcoming sugar addiction is being satiated. 100%, to me, that's the most important thing. If you're really full, you're not gonna want the resisting cravings is so much easier. If you leave yourself hungry, I think you're making it extremely hard for yourself.
Yeah,
So
but it as you said, it's still a very, very difficult cycle to actually break and get
yeah,
out of.
just
And so
because the way the world's set up, it's like
yeah,
you're not it's not really designed to like help you get out of
yeah,
them. It's encouraged.
exactly. And what would you say was the hardest part for you about like transitioning out of that lifestyle?
I think for me, it happened really slowly. Like it was over years. It was some kind of what happened to you in a way, like just following my body, but I was definitely still more caught up in like listening to other people and hearing other people and getting other people's opinions. I wasn't as like just focused on my body as you were. But the change happened over time. But it was listening to Dr. Chafee probably, and just the way he says it is, whenever you're hungry, just eat meat until you're not hungry. Because I was still very mentally involved in my food, and like feeling like I shouldn't be eating loads, and feeling like I had to stop at a certain point, and worried about overeating, because I was slightly like I'm looking back at it, I'm like, that's fair enough, because I was slightly traumatized in a way, by ultra processed food, and by not being in control of like eating them, and knowing that if I don't mentally become involved with like portion control, like I will eat the whole bag, and then I want the next bag until I'm physically uncomfortable and I feel awful, and yet still my brain wants more. I was kind of traumatized by that process because it's horrible. So then like feeling like I could just relax around eating food felt very foreign to me. But it wasn't until I listened to the way Dr. Chafee explained how to eat carnivore, that's when it really clicked. I'm like, okay, I could do that. Like, I'm just going to try it. I'm just going to actually eat until I'm full and not stop myself. And from there, it just like the learning intuitive eating, basically, it was life changing. Like, it's so nice to know that you can do that because you trust the food, you trust yourself, and you know that you'll just stop eating when you're full. And yeah, that's life changing.
Yeah. And what was it? Because that's kind of one of the hardest parts for me too, to get over that hump of just actually allowing myself to eat as much as
Yeah, it was a
I wanted.
mental battle
Yeah.
for me. Like a lot of my like my journey to finding carnivore was mental things. It wasn't really like physical, because I luckily I didn't have physical health issues to overcome. Obviously, like malnutrition, I suppose. Like some I didn't really know I had, but nothing like that you've had to go through. It was just a lot of mental hurdles, and like a lot of like mental belief systems to overcome, and just really like learning what real food is and what it feels like.
Yeah. I mean, when you go around for that long, like restricting yourself and thinking that's what you have to
Mm-hmm.
do to actually stay in shape or whatever, or
Mm-hmm.
feel good, it's a hard shift make. And since both of us were actually in that situation where we were malnourished, right, and restricting ourselves, I was wondering, because for me, you always hear about people, I'm trying to lose weight and all that stuff. Because for me, I actually gained weight, but I needed it. So I wanted to hear if that's the case for you.
I gained weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've lost and gained weight on Carnivore. I've also done now, like a year in, for the majority of my Carnivore experience, I ate intuitively because that's what I needed. Like the healing for me was mental mostly. I needed to take my mind out of the whole thing, and your mind will fight back still. It doesn't just, for me, it didn't just go away, but the way you perceive your thoughts change. Like I could differentiate my disordered thoughts, my thoughts that weren't me. They were just trying to pretend they were me and get control back with eating disordered thoughts. But I could see them now. And when you're aware of them inside of you, because I knew what I was going to do, I was going to eat meat whenever I was hungry until I was full. And then you get that, maybe you could just stop or just have a coffee, like whatever your brain's going to tell you to change your mind. Like I could see it happening. And because of that, I could realize, like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then actually overcome it because I could see it. Before, I was so twisted and confused, and I just was like lost. I didn't know what was me, what was not me, what should I do. Like it just cleared my mind, and I could, like the Carnivore mental clarity, I could just see what needed to leave my mind and what was actually me. I can't even remember your question now. Carnivore mental clarity. What was the initial question?
No, it was really just like the contrast of most people talk about the weight loss, but then we come from a malnourished state. And
oh, right, yeah. But I did still gain weight because of the intuitive eating. I needed to gain weight. Like I was I wasn't actually underweight. I was at a healthy weight. I was slim, like a healthy slim weight. But I think I just needed like nutrition. So it meant I had to eat a lot of food. I was very hungry at the start, and I just went with it. And then over time, my hunger did like die down. I still have a big appetite because I'm active and young, I guess. I don't know. So I've lost some weight from that. But then I've done a lot of experimenting with different because there's so many ways you can do Carnivore. You can do, obviously, just intuitive Carnivore is what I recommend first. And if it works for you, don't change it. If that's all you need to do, then absolutely keep doing that. But if you can play around with different macros, and it's more for me to gain insight so I can see and help other people. I want to just like understand it because I do coaching. I offer coaching as well. And there's been I've tried like the priming before. Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried priming and I gained like a lot of weight. And priming is like, the idea of priming is you eat 3 meals a day until you're very full. And then they go into like a fasting period. And I did the priming and I gained a lot of weight, and because I ate so much food. And I was actually I felt like I actually needed that too. But then I didn't like the fasting. Like fasting like that wasn't for me at all. So like I couldn't do it. So I was suddenly like left with like so much weight. I was like, what's going on here? And so I've then played around with like higher protein, not low fat, moderate fat. And then I've tried like the other side of it. Some people think you need the really high fat and the lower moderate protein. I don't know. It's a whole world of Carnivore macros, but I've tried some different things. What do you do? Do you just eat intuitively, or?
Yeah, I just eat whenever I'm hungry. For me, it's usually just 1 meal a day. Actually,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's something I just naturally gravitated towards, really. Yeah, I just eat like a really large meal, and then I'm not hungry until the next day. That's it. I haven't eaten yet today. It's
Wow.
like 1:12 p.m. I'm feeling fine. I'm not hungry. It's and all that. So
I've tried OMAD, but I just can't. I like breakfast, but like small breakfasts. Not small for me. But I couldn't do like huge meals. I don't know. I find the digestion is sort of harder as well.
it seems like it's more like the males that gravitate towards doing
Yeah,
it,
it's a
really.
female thing.
But I don't know, because do you think maybe because a lot of girls have grown up like hearing the whole thing of, oh, you need to eat only small meals, like only have a little bit, stay away
Yeah.
from the fat and the meat and all that. Do you think maybe that's
Oh,
part of
100%.
why that is?
I don't know. I think there's a lot of reasons why, like for me personally, like why I don't like OMAD or just women in
Or
general.
just in general, yeah, or for you if you want to talk about,
I just find for me it's too much food in one sitting.
yeah,
So like I can't eat enough in one sitting to not then be hungry for a day, if that makes sense. And I find the digestion is like, oh, you just like too much. But for in terms of just like female eating, like it's definitely a lot of unfortunate messages. Like women need to eat like birds and like big portions aren't for women. Like no, my
mm,
Instagram definitely goes against that. I'm I've got late like we need high protein, we need fat. We're still human. We have a whole body to work. You know that doesn't come from small portions of broccoli. So, and female hormones, like we have to be like the hormonal cycle, you know, we're functioning on a 28, 31-day cycle. There's so much going on. We have a lot of hormones to build and manage and maintain. And then of course we're going to like for some people we're going to have children, we're going to support pregnancies. The female body is amazing and it needs so much food. It needs extremely nutrient dense food. And it does not have to be small portions if you don't want it to be. Like, eat to your appetite, and it will probably be more than you think. But the body's amazing, so yeah, that's a sad belief that we have.
yeah, it definitely is. Another thing I thought about, you said it earlier, I just remembered. Uh, you talked about your coaching. You're starting to do that as well, and you
Yes,
released your ebook recently, Fueled for
yes,
Life. I
I
really
have.
loved it. I read through
Thank
it and all
you.
that. I love how it's laid out like in a very uh like easily or
Very
like intent.
accessible.
Yeah,
I wrote it with and how I make a lot of my content. I'm always thinking if I was to speak to my patient, how how would I phrase this? So anyone can understand it, no matter who you're speaking to. So that's kind of how I go about all my content, and that's how I made the ebook. It's like I wanted it to be extremely accessible, but still very informative to really help lay out what the fundamental understanding that you need to grasp why eating meat's so important. So yeah, it covers like like enough of everything to really I think get a nice overview and spark some curiosity on the subject of carnivore. So
yeah. What I really love about both the videos you make and like the ebook is the way you lay it out is kind of not to just tell everything, like shove it down everyone's throat, but like put it up in a way or set it up in a way where they reach the conclusion themselves, right? They have to
absolutely,
come to the logical conclusion about things. And
yeah,
I think that's the way to actually get people to realize it, because it
100%.
has
If
to come
they
from within.
Exactly. If they can, all I'm doing is laying out the logic and the reason behind why I think this is appropriate and why I think this works. I don't want to tell anyone what to do because that's not my place. I don't actually care in a way what you do to some extent. I mean, if you're unwell, I kind of care. But I'm not going to tell anyone what to do. That's not my place and that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not here to like, you know, convince anyone to anything. I just want to lay out why I think this way and why I think it could be helpful for you to understand it. And once you understand it, you can then decide if you think it's wrong, right, appropriate, inappropriate for you, not for you. That's your decision to make. And I'm not, I don't care what you decide to do with it, but I want them to see it.
Yeah, I think that's the
So
best approach,
I
really.
lead with reason and logic.
Yeah. But on the coaching side too, like, and with your nurse job and all that, what are you seeing for like the future for yourself? Or do you think you're gonna keep being in the nursing, or do you think you're gonna gradually go over to more of the coaching, all that
Ideally,
stuff?
I'd like to definitely move to coaching and like content creating. I'm nursing part time at the moment because so I could have more time to like decide what I wanted to do. I've actually got a trip lined up though. I'm going to Australia, New Zealand. I'm going to go work on Barkay's farm.
Ah,
Yeah,
nice.
Barkay.
Yeah.
That's gonna be really funny. So I'm taking some time out of nursing just to like do that trip, but I can obviously still keep up with the content. And hopefully the coaching, I'll see. Maybe when I'm at the farm, I could set up the coaching again. But I don't really know. I feel like the position I've somehow found myself in is very like, I don't know where it's going to go. Like it could go anywhere. So I'm open to whatever happens. But at the moment, just some nursing and coaching mixed in together.
Well, I think it's great what you're doing, and it's really you're doing a lot of great work to like get the message out there. And I think, like, especially since we're both young too, I feel like my feeling is that there are actually a lot of people at your like our age that are starting to wake up to this stuff.
I
But
hope so.
I think
Yeah.
many of them are afraid of actually speaking up about it,
Yeah.
which is where I think that's why us who actually
Yeah.
have the
Just some
courage to go out,
examples. Yeah.
go out and stand up as a good example and just
Yeah.
start doing it. And maybe
100%.
we eventually get more people to do it. And I would like to hear, do you have any, like, if you think back to yourself when you were 18, let's say that, what do you wish? What do you wish you at 18, Lucy at 18 knew?
Oh, quite a few things. Lucy at 18 was a riot. What do I wish I knew? What do I wish I knew? That I didn't have to eat vegetables. I mean, like, really. Just that one.
No
Just like,
fiber. No.
just fiber's
Yeah.
not essential. Oh, I
Yeah.
don't know. That I don't owe anyone an explanation. That you don't actually have to explain yourself to anyone. I felt like I was very much trying to like get external validation and like approval almost, and like just like silly things like that, realizing that like if you are happy with what you're doing, then that's literally it. You're your own world, and if someone's not for you, they're against you, and then you can just move on. I would have liked that message, but that's the thing though, even if I heard that at 18, I would have been like, whatever, I'm still gonna do. I like, sometimes you just have
Yeah.
to go through it and realize for yourself. Like I was quite stubborn. So. But
Yeah, I think most people at that age,
yeah.
I was there too, right? You don't really want to listen to all that. It just sounds like, I don't know, like wives' tales or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But yeah, oh yeah, I had a little fun idea I came up with while we were speaking. What would you say is the worst diet advice you've ever heard?
Everything in moderation.
Everything in moderation.
doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it's just marketing more than
It's 100. I
advice.
have a video on this breaking down my opinion on everything in moderation. 100%. I think it's thrown around by the food industry to get you to just eat one of their foods, because all you need to do for a lot of people is just eat one or two, and you'll eat the whole bag. It's to set you up. I really do feel like that. Some people can moderate, and good for them. I wish I was like you, but I can't do that. Oh no, you've frozen.
Oh, sorry about that.
Oh, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening.
What's yours?
We've had pretty bad weather
Oh,
over here
really?
recently, so I've had some connection issues.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'm back.
That's all right.
Yeah, what was I didn't hear it.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the worst dietary advice, I think, is everything in moderation. For some people, maybe that works, but for me, that sort of advice doesn't work because I can't moderate ultra processed food. I can't. I find even if I did maybe eat one, my brain is then like, okay, where's the next one? My brain isn't moderated, and that's what I care about. Like, I don't want to be living with food cravings like this. It's horrible. So everything in moderation doesn't work. What would be yours?
The first thing that comes to mind for me it's just something recently that's appeared pretty strongly. You probably
Hmm.
know it, the
It's the
sugar
sugar
diet.
diet.
Yeah.
That one's
Seriously,
a
it's like
weird.
one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
Hmm.
Like you, okay, you might lose weight in the short term, right? But I mean, what? First of all, what's that weight made up of?
Yeah,
Like,
that's a big thing that people aren't focusing on. We're not trying to
yeah,
lose weight, we're trying to lose fat if you're
yeah,
overweight. You don't want to lose your lean muscle.
yeah, exactly. And also, yeah, you might feel like in the short term, you might feel better, but I mean, you're not giving your body any proper nutrition. You're
No.
malnourishing yourself. You're wrecking your hormones, wrecking your metabolism, everything. Yeah, it's just,
Yeah,
it's a horrible, horrible.
I wouldn't like it.
I don't like seeing it being spread this far and wide. It's, yeah, it's awful,
Hmm.
really.
It's
And
that's an ultimate fad though. That will fade very quickly.
yeah,
I'm not
definitely.
overly concerned, to be honest.
No, I think people. I'm already seeing so many people just speak up, like, and say, like, just a few days or weeks in, I'm feeling completely awful, and I have to stop it and that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's
So
just
it's
there's
gonna
no
depend.
logic to it. This is why I
Yeah,
really like carnivore meat-based eating because it's a health-first diet. Like it really comes with the philosophy that if you fix your health, if you have weight to lose, that will follow. Because if you're overweight, a healthy body doesn't want to be overweight. A healthy body wants to lose weight. So get a healthy body and you'll get a healthy weight. And I really like that aspect of why meat eating, predominantly meat-based diets work. With a sugar diet, that's not going to happen.
yeah,
That's not a health first approach.
yeah, exactly. You're giving your body what it needs and letting it heal first, and then the
Yeah.
weight just like a consequence of that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
Well, I think we're getting to a pretty good point, and I think I've really loved this discussion,
Me
and
too.
it was a pleasure speaking to you, Lucy.
Yeah, thank you for having me
Uh,
on. It's been really nice to get to know you more.
yeah, likewise. And yeah, do you have any closing words? Where can people find you and all that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram on under that carnivore nurse. I have been meaning to start a YouTube channel for too long now, and I just haven't got around to it, unfortunately. But I will do that.
Good.
It will be the same name, that carnivore nurse. And then if you're interested in my coaching I offer, you can find it through my Instagram, or you can go to www.fueledforlife.com. You can also find it there. And you can download my free ebook if you're interested in learning more about carnivore diet and meat-based eating and why it's so important.
That's amazing. Okay, everyone go check out Lucy, that carnivore nurse. And yeah, we'll see you next time with another guest.